Welcome to another episode with your chapter crush sweetheart. This is Everblue Presents When You're Enough, a chapter crush sweetheart series. Michel, chapter 28. I thought I was done with love. Then you showed up like a software update I didn't ask for. Unknown. I like my wife. I drop my head in my hands. I don't just like her, I really like her. Zoot. This should not be happening. What am I going to do? Ignoring it doesn't work, but moving forward isn't an option. I groan into my hands, scrubbing them down my face. Maybe I should wait until she's asleep before going to bed. I sit up and look out the bedroom window, where the sky is as dark as pitch. It's impossible. We already made a big deal of going to bed in front of our client. Knowing him, he's still lounging in the great room. I flop against my pillows as the door to the bathroom opens, releasing a fruity lavender cloud of steam. I thought it was a good idea to dim the wall sconces so it's bright enough for Bronfman to see, but dim enough that we won't have to look at each other. I'm regretting it now as I watch our robed silhouette approach in the soft golden glow. Michel, are you awake? I stay perfectly still, my eyes lowered as she tries to peer through the shadows to see my face. When she peels off her bathrobe, revealing a brand new set of long-sleeve pajamas, my brows shoot up. If I felt she was trying to seduce me with her wardrobe that first night, those fears were firmly put to rest nearly every subsequent evening as she went to bed in the most unappealing attire she owned. I would have long told her she didn't need to continue expending such an effort to be as unappealing as possible. However, after several rotations of the same stained and tattered outfits, full of holes and worn to pieces, I quickly realized it wasn't a show. She truly did not invest in her lingerie. Yet why would she? If this were a traditional marriage, her mother or sister would help her pick clothes suitable for the bedroom. If this were a traditional marriage, would she have need of her own clothes at all? I close my eyes against the thought, and when the bed shifts as she climbs in beside me, I keep my breathing steady. Would it be inappropriate to buy her something? Nothing immodest or indecent, just an expression of appreciation. I know she's tried to live by my wish to keep our marriage strictly platonic, yet she must surely see how things have shifted between us. We are genuinely friends. I sigh heavily, thinking back to how Bronwyn helped me this morning. How she seemed to understand that I felt no regret over Yvette herself, but what we missed out on. How she offered nothing but comfort and friendship as she rubbed my back and stroked my hair long after the tears dried. How I wished I could have stayed curled in her lap and slept for the rest of the day. Yet that would have been a sure way to incur a visit from the family. So I kissed her on the cheek to thank her, and after washing my face, I found her downstairs, peeking through the cabinets near the refrigerator. When I threatened to take a vacation from cooking, she looked absolutely stricken, saying she would do anything if I didn't. I teased that she only wants to see me barefoot and in the kitchen, when she actually wagged a finger with an impish smile and said, "Don't forget, and pregnant, darling. You must know your place." We left, but her words sent me back to the night of her unscripted confession, when she said she wanted to give me children we could both love. I know we were sick, and I shouldn't take the feverish ramblings to heart. Yet her whispered words still sent a shiver through me. While we traipsed across the hill towards Mama and Papa's, I tried to prepare her for what lay ahead. We only stopped at the car where she insisted on bringing a large tote bag inside, despite it being safe here. The entire time she listened as I described the sinful amount of food, the mess of family coming and going throughout the day, and the boat full of teasing we would be in for. I told her to just be herself and everyone would love her, because how could they not? I wasn't sure either one of us were ready, yet she assured me she could handle it all, including any displays of affection, just as she did in the car. When I told her, "We'll see how true that is," she took my offered hand, and a bolt of awareness zipped through me as it does now. However, neither of us were prepared for the scene that greeted us, despite it being just after 10 a.m. on a Friday, a time when everyone should have been at work or school. Nearly the whole family was present, and my little koala was holding court. putting on a show with all the songs and dances she's learning in school. My parents' house is a larger version of my own, with more bedrooms and bathrooms, but the dark wood paneling on the ceiling and floors give it a cozy feel. It's no wonder it's the favorite gathering place for my 3 aunts, 2 uncles, and pack of daredevil cousins. Together with their spouses and children, we're quite a brood. Of course, every eye moved to us as we stepped from the vestibule into the blue and yellow great room. They were packed into every nook and cranny, and I nearly took a step back before I remembered Bronwyn behind me. A hush fell over the room, as even Dorian decided to sit down for the show. Bronwyn's hand trembled in mine, and remembering this was my circus, I stroked my thumb over her hand in silent support and took a deep breath. Hello, everyone. Bronwyn, this is my family. Everyone, this is my wife, Bronwyn. Ignoring my sweaty palms, which I never suffered from before that moment, and even the way my voice cracked on the word wife, I lifted our joined hands and placed a gentle kiss on her fingers. When I gave her an encouraging nod, as nervous as I knew she was, she smiled, flushing the dimples I usually want to sink a finger into. And no one breathed until Bronwyn said, "Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me into your home." Then pandemonium broke loose as every member of my family rushed the door, shouting their greetings, reaching for hugs and kisses, and screaming questions like it was a press conference. Several camera flashes went off, and I knew it was the Trinity, the name my brother and I had given Papa's 3 sisters. Whistling momentarily worked to get everyone to freeze, yet they all fell right back into what they were doing as soon as I shouted, "One at a time." "All right, all right. Now she's my daughter," Mama cried, her best gold dress swirling about her ankles. "Everyone else, get back, or so help me, there will be no dessert." The collective groaned until Mama cast her dark gray eyes around the group, adding, "For the rest of the week." I have never seen everyone throw back so quickly. Oh, they didn't go far, choosing to hang back around the edges until a better time. They're vultures, but I love every single one of them. Mama is much taller than Bronwyn, so she really meant it when she leaned forward, voice brimming with excitement as she exclaimed, "Oh, my darling, you're just the cutest. Gus, she's such an adorable munchkin. I'm Emily Renard, and this is my husband, Auguste Renard. We are Michel's parents. Can I hug you?" I looked sidelong at Bronwyn, knowing how much she hates being reminded of how little she is, but instead of annoyance, her face was full of joy as she told them she was delighted to meet them and walked right into Mama's arms for a hug that quickly became weepy. Afterwards, it was Papa's turn as Mama wrapped me in a hug, whispering how well I'd done and how much they love her. As I watched Bronwyn get passed around like a fresh plate of appetizers, easily laughing and joking with my aunts and cousins, I couldn't help make the comparison with their first time meeting Yvette. Yvette had been stiff, and no amount of time ever melted that stiffness. She never smiled, choosing to sullenly sit scrolling through her phone when she deigned to come. When someone would approach to talk to her, she'd glare at them, being difficult until they moved on. My parents tried so hard to like her, but she truly wanted nothing to do with him, because in hindsight, I realized she didn't truly want me. In contrast, I shook my head. What contrast? There's no comparison. Bronwyn is light itself, drawing people to her, willingly sharing her wealth, not asking for anything in return. She's easy to love, because for her, the road is already open. A warmth spread through me as I watched Bronwyn pull out what she called tchotchkes, or small gifts she had brought for everyone. I didn't realize she had been paying so much attention to our late-night conversations about my family until now. She gave out little New York cheesecake magnets and small bags of coffee for the aunts and uncles, boxes of chocolate for my 6 cousins and for their children. She bought small parcels of saltwater taffy for the little ones and enough t-shirts for the 8 older kids. Adrien loved the Jameson McKay shirt she gave him, since she remembered he loves music. Yet nothing beat Mama and Papa's excitement when they received a reusable tote bag from the Met with a pretty watercolor of Spring in Central Park and a Yankees baseball cap. They danced a jig, wearing their new items, and I could only shrug at their silliness while Dorian clapped for more. As I was sitting at the bar stool on the kitchen island, Julie, my oldest cousin and Aunt Theodosie's only child, abruptly called out, "Hey, Michel, where are your gifts? Are you not happy to see us?" That brought about a round of laughter that was only cut short when Bronwyn said, "Actually, Michel misses you so much. We worked on it together, which is why your names are on the gifts. They're from the three of us, so enjoy." Of course, a collective "ah" went around, and when I winked at Bronwyn from across the room while she helped tie something for Aunt Gita, she blushed prettily. Something fluttered in my chest at the sight, and I smiled in response. Alfred approached, clapping a hand on my back as I tried to catch her eye again. "So you never did say. Does she have sisters?" I glared at him as our cousin Max and Uncle George sauntered over and happened to overhear the question. "Or cousins? Or aunts?" I gladly told them she has an identical twin sister, and watched as they broke out in huge smiles before telling them that Brian is engaged to be married. Her groans were hilarious. And when cousin Jeff spawned from nowhere, hinting that it may still be worth a shot if she hasn't said yes, I shot daggers at him and said if he can find a way to beat out Nicholas Bancroft, he was more than welcome to try. They didn't believe me until they looked it up and saw the pictures of Brian with Nicholas, commenting how much their sisters look alike. When Papa joined and asked why I was standing around gossiping with a bunch of bachelors, I laughed, and excusing myself, I went to find my bride. Hours later, we were nearly home free after eating a third time. Dorian was off playing with her cousins. Bronwyn was sitting on my lap on the sofa as I fed her some of Mama's Queen of Sheba cake. At least she was sitting on my lap until she groaned over how good it was, making everyone around us laugh. I was the only one not laughing as I shifted my knee beneath her. She'd have to find another chair. She's going to keep that up. So when I took another scoop, I didn't give it to her. Or the next bite. On the third one she struck, wrapping her hand around my wrist and stealing the bite. As I fought to get the fork back, she settled on the sofa between my legs, and at that point there was no stopping her from eating the rest of the cake. "You two are so cute," my cousin Joanne giggled. "How did you two meet?" The flock of people that questioned you could have been as effective as a call to arms. Bronwyn and I looked at each other then, determined to stick to the official story. We worked together, very closely. How closely? They demanded every detail. So I wrapped an arm around Bronwyn's waist as I told them she stalked me and told the whole office I was her work husband. The whole time Bronwyn laughed uncontrollably. "That isn't how it happened." When I said she hounded me day and night until I couldn't resist, everyone scoffed in disbelief, including my partner in crime. And when she whirled around, betrayal clear in her eyes as she laughed, saying, "Oh, really?" I should have taken the hint. Instead, I laughed and said it was indeed I who took note of the poor soul and invited her out. No one believed that version, but it was just shocking the amount of people that believed her when she said I made a fool of myself by inserting my foot in my mouth, and after begging forgiveness, I sought her out. Now that we can believe. Cousin Eloise's husband, Ernst, piped in. There was far too much laughter and agreement for my taste, including from my wife. So I pushed her aside and gave her a little nip on the neck. It came so easily, so naturally. It could have been something that happened every day. Yet I knew as soon as I dropped the peck in the same soft spot that I was in trouble. I drew back, just a breath away, and froze as I gazed at her. Not only did she gaze up at me with a question in those soft brown eyes, even as a confused smile turned up the corners of her mouth, it brought the family's attention down on us. "Ooh, Cousin Michel is in love." "Michel, stop playing with your food in front of us," Adrien called. "Bronwyn, don't let him bully you." "Gift, Mama? Are you and Papa going to go play again?" The last one broke the spell as I looked at Dorian in shock, betrayed by my own daughter. Meanwhile, Bronwyn sat in front of me, her body shaking in laughter as my family tried to embarrass me to death. "Just kiss her already, Michou, then everyone can get back to their games." My own father grumbled over the forgotten hand of cards he, Mama, and my uncles were playing. With my heart slamming against my ribs, I tugged Bronwyn close. I wasn't afraid to kiss her. No, I was afraid that if I kissed her now, I wouldn't want to stop. So I fought them off with my last spread of restraint. We won't be bullied like this. We can go home. You're not leaving here until we sing, so just kiss the girl already. Not you too, Mama. Will someone get to the piano already? Laughter mixed in with a collective no. I was losing my mind. That's the only reason that my nose sank into Bronwyn's neck as I closed my eyes and murmured so only she could hear. I'm so sorry, Winnie. I knew it would be bad, but this must be so embarrassing. When she made a sound, I lifted my head to see her looking back at me over her shoulder. And no one was more surprised than me when she smiled, reached back to grab my hair, and pulled me down into a kiss. It was the culmination of the constant zing that has bounced between us for months. At first, it was light, questioning, as if despite our conversations to affirm we were okay with PDA, she was still unsure. Yet when I responded to let her know it was okay, and oh so right, the kiss shifted. Vague howling, whistling, chirping, and laughter rang in the background. But every cell in my body was trained on the woman in front of me as I drew my hand up to her neck. In what only could have been mere seconds, we'd asked and answered multiple questions, and when I deepened the kiss, I became drunk from the taste of rum and chocolate still on her lips. I was transported back to our wedding day, to a kiss that now pales in comparison to this one, then beyond, to a life full of similar moments. That kiss, it stole my breath and gave me life. Go there are children present. Aunt Ophelia's voice cut to the A's, doing a fine job of uncurling my toes. Zut! I pulled back as the sound of laughter rang out, and Papa exclaimed, Finally! I win! Only a few seconds could have passed, yet, as I stared into Bronwyn's dazed eyes, something shifted between us and fell into place. Reaching up to touch the hand she still had fisted in my ear, I smirked as I whispered, Is this supposed to be payback? Because I'd very much like to keep the hair I have on my... Releasing my hair, she sat forward with a startled laugh, reaching for a cold cup of tea and draining the remnants. Yet she snuggled back against me as I joked with my cousin, as if I could concentrate on anything beyond every point of contact between me and my wife. I had to move. I couldn't continue sitting there that way, as if that kiss hadn't awoken something I'd thought long dead. If I didn't kill it before it took hold of me, I wouldn't recover if it didn't work out. That's when the Trinity descended in all their dark-haired glory, and for 5 whole minutes we discussed future children I didn't know we were having and how we would raise them. When Bronwyn finally left, saying she was deferring all timing to me since I'm the old one in the relationship, I delightfully discovered she was ticklish when I pinched her side. The poor woman was then tickled for every joke made at my expense, especially when Aunt Dozy asked where we honeymooned and Bronwyn snorted in laughter. The question startled me. Frankly, it didn't occur to me. We decided not to honeymoon. We have Dorian after all. It was lame, as excuses went. Still, I didn't expect my quiet Aunt Gita to look at me so skeptically, her salt and pepper bob swinging about her face as she shook her head. Every woman looks forward to her honeymoon, Michel. Aunt Ophélie snorted as Aunt Gita looked at me disapprovingly. You're better than this, my nephew. I shook my head. Not Winnie. She was perfectly fine at home. Weren't you, my love? As 3 pairs of pale blue eyes swung to Bronwyn, I held my fingers in threat against her side, ready to tickle if she decided to break the united front. I was unprepared for her response, as her whole body lifted and fell against me when she sighed. Actually, I always thought I wanted a honeymoon. When I got married, something simple and quiet, where my husband and I would spend days enjoying being ourselves together. Nothing so fancy as a week in Paris, but definitely somewhere in France. She tilted her head to look up at me as she smiled. I guess Michel fulfilled my wish, because here we are. As I wondered how much of that was true, I dropped a kiss on her forehead in thanks. That seemed to pacify the Trinity, who automatically cooed in appreciation. Then a few minutes later, when Bronwyn called out, Mama, where's the piano? I'd like to play something. The old home went quiet. Yvette famously called my mother Mrs. Vanille, despite Mama's wish to be closer. I should have realized that Bronwyn's habit of calling out Mama on the phone was when she'd carry over in person. Yet, I was caught off guard in that surreal moment. Mama's eyes widened in disbelief as she tailed up, but when Papa touched her arm, she took a deep breath and pointed to the covered antique piano standing in a dark corner away from the light of the fireplace. It's there, my darling. Please play as much as you want. That's how I found myself gazing at my wife as she sat Dorian in her lap and began playing at my grandfather's old piano. She warmed up with one of Yasana's earlier songs that everyone began singing along to, and followed up with a rendition of Life in the Rose that had everyone sang. The women in appreciation, while the men groaned over what we expected to be a standard rendition. But of course, Bronwyn added her own twists, even giving it a jazzy flavor at some point. So we were tapping along before she slowed it again. Then she transitioned into a pretty piece I'd heard her tinkering with at home for the last few weeks. But when it turns into a rousing rendition of I Want by Zaz, and she begins belting the lyrics, well, my family loses their minds, and before I know it, every female in the room, including my quiet Aunt Dozy, is crowding around her singing along. The men have gathered to watch and quietly hum along under their breath, as I stare, once again fascinated by this woman. It's then that Adrien sits down, practically on top of me with a grin. Mijou bisou. You look happy, he declared, waggling his brows. A smile spread across my face. Of course I'm happy. I'm home with all of my favorite people. Adrien ran a hand over his chin as he nodded towards the group of women bouncing around together in the middle of the piano solo. Did you think, when you left here, you'd be running towards your future? I shrugged as I saw the joy on Dorian's face as she watched Bronwyn's fingers fly across the keys. Who could ever know what the future holds? Asked Dorian. He nudged me and smiled. It's nice to see you in love with someone who loves you back. It looks good on you, little brother. Without waiting for a response, he jumped up and crossed over to dance with Julie, who was demanding we stop being old men. Love? Who said anything about love? I like her, certainly, but wait. I like her. As in, really like her. Everything about her. Even when she's driving me crazy, trying to keep things to herself, I find it almost enjoyable getting it out of her, because I always discover some new fascinating tidbit. That's how I came to be sitting thunderstruck as the song came to an end and everyone broke into applause. Play, no, I regret nothing, Aunt Ophélie demanded. I smiled when Bronwyn put a thoughtful finger to her chin. Oh, I'm not sure I know that one. Is it the one that goes... My family all laughed as she began playing the opening notes, in expert mode, of course, and joined in singing to each other and being silly in general. As the last notes played, Bronwyn looked up at me and winked. My stomach bottomed out. Antoine could be right. Now, I've been waiting for weeks to hear Mama play La Bohème because I heard it wasn't a party until she did, Bronwyn declared. Giggles went around as Mama snorted. I am not playing after the concert pianist, Bronwyn nodded. Good, because I'm an accountant, and it's your turn, she said firmly as she stood up, gesturing towards the piano. Mama laughed as she stepped around her nieces and nephews to sit on the bench. Fine, but we should play it together. Bronwyn's eyes widened. I would be honored, but I'm not sure I know all the words. Adrien, get your old violin, I called. Winnie can accompany you, Mama. Adrien rolled his eyes as he stood up grumbling. You're really raising the bar here on who I'll be allowed to bring home in the future. At least there's something to aspire to. I slapped him on the back with a chuckle as he walked by. Mama looked wondrously at Bronwyn, who was glaring at me. Why are you always such a troublemaker? She shook her head, meriting a few chuckles. Smiling angelically, I blew her a kiss. She smiled as she rolled her eyes, but she accepted the violin, which I was surprised to see was still in good condition, and began adjusting it. After some tuning and discussing notes with Mama, we all settled in for the best sing-along in Banal family history. Like what you're hearing? Tune in Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern or visit us at everblueauthor.substack.com for even more stories.